All right, good evening. So I want to talk about the Flyers because I did the look at what they might lose in expansion a couple days ago, and I want to talk about the Flyers because I do think this is a team that could win a Stanley Cup, and I mean that. And I know if you're a Flyers fan, you might roll your eyes at the idea, or you might say, "Well, don't get our hopes up." But I do think this team's going to go on a run, and I was kind of surprised they didn't this year. Now they ended up finishing first when they won the round robin. But then, of course, the offense fell flat. And there were many games where their offense just seemed to fall flat in numerous rounds. And so that's kind of what people remember, right? Now, the team still has $4.81 million in cap space. There's no reason to use that. None. And I mean that. I think the best thing that Chuck Fletcher can do is leave that cap space just as it is and weaponize that at a trade deadline. So when we look at their forward group, there is depth. There is depth from every position. So on the left side, projected anyways, Giroux, Farabee, Van Riemsdyk, and Lindblom. Now what stands out here is James Van Riemsdyk had a very off year by his standards. And during the playoffs, healthy scratch at times. I would not be surprised if he does not end up being in the everyday roster. And Lindblom is not going to be fourth line. But it shows just how much depth they have there. Because when you look across the middle, you got Couturier, Hayes, Lawton, and Frost. That's a good four. And then on the right, you've got Voracek, Konechny. I've put Patrick in here with the idea that if Nolan Patrick's good to go, and I've got INJ there for injury, Obey, Kubel, that'll be your right side. And of course, Bunneman would jump into the lineup if Patrick's not ready to go. And in that case, Raffl likely draws in or something along those lines. And somebody's going to be the 13th forward between Bunneman and Raffl on any given night. Raffl, Ratcliffe, Twarynski are your depth on the left. Rubtsov and Andreoff on down the middle. Rubtsov, just the numbers he's put up both in the KHL this year and last year in the AHL, I don't think he's going to make it. But again, I'll put him on the chart because he's still technically in the running, right? Until he's not. And then on the right, you got Kasha and Sandin, because why not have guys with the same last names as players from other teams in your conference, so you're throwing people off and confusing people. Now, in the case of Sandin, of course, we're going to see a Canadian division and an American division, which, if you needed proof, you just needed to hear that the border will not be opening between Canada and the U.S. until things are under control. So that means we will have a Canadian division, because there's not really any way around it. But yeah, so we'll see which 12 players end up making up this forward group. And I honestly think this speaks well to the depth they have and means that in the case of Lindblom, when he got hurt, they could deal with that, right? Well, cancer diagnosis and going through treatments, right? Patrick, hurt, out, misses the season. They were still able to thrive and do very well. And I think, if Patrick can come back, if Lindblom gets back to being himself, again, Van Riemsdyk very likely becomes the odd man out. I would be very surprised if we don't see Van Riemsdyk out. I'm kind of surprised they didn't try buying him out. I'm not sure if maybe that's a decision made because of cap reasons, but I was kind of surprised they didn't waive him. But yeah, so to me, this is a really solid forward group. And the question becomes one of, well, where are all the goals going to come from? As solid as this group is, I think that might be a bit of a valid criticism on this note. Giroux needs to bounce back. Couturier is one of the best, if not the best, two-way forward in the game. You can have the conversation with Couturier, you can have it with Bergeron, you can have it with Stone, and someday soon we can have that discussion with Suzuki in there as well. But Voracek needs to have a bounce-back season. Konechny needs to show the regular season goal scoring and not the playoffs not goal scoring. That was a huge problem for them. And everybody needs to match the effort level of Kevin Hayes. Hayes, in the first year of his contract, was much better for Philly than I ever saw him play for the Rangers or for the Jets. Just the overall effort, the heart and soul that he was for them, it's fantastic. So that signing out of the gate looks pretty smart, and the Flyers are in pretty good shape. And again, they have cap space. Despite some of these expensive contracts, Voracek and Giroux being expensive, they still have cap space. Now, on the blue line, there's some interest here too. So you have Provorov, Myers, Sanheim, and I think Braun. I think that's your top four, right? But there's depth there too. And I think that depth, you can't understate it. So Gustafsson, good addition, solid under the radar addition, and that might help absorb the loss of Niskanen. Niskanen had a huge beneficial impact on the play of Provorov this past season. So Provorov, if he's with Myers, Provorov's with Braun, I can't see him being with Ghost. I've got Ghost on the third pairing, but honestly, much like Van Riemsdyk, Gostisbehere spent a lot of nights not playing. And you don't get the feeling that Vigneault necessarily has a lot of faith in him. And when I was talking about Philadelphia and players that maybe end up in Seattle, Ghost makes some sense to me if Seattle was willing to look at that, because I don't know that he has a spot. Haig, I thought had a decent season. I know he has off games here and there, but I thought he played well. Friedman was impressive in his call-up. They've got Pouliot now for depth, and Prosser. Prosser's 34, but he's still there for depth. And then what about Morin? Morin, who's been injured, if he's good to go, honestly, this is a really good defense too. And again, the one question mark for Philadelphia is offense from the blue line, and this is why Ghost should get his chances. If you have Sanheim, Braun, Myers, and Provorov, that's a very good top four, but there isn't really that point man on a power play. There isn't really that guy who can score, and so Ghost should get a look. Ghost should get an opportunity for a top four role, but if the coach doesn't have faith in him, and worse yet, if he dons a Flyers jersey and goes out on the ice and it fits in his head that he's not really meant to stay here, it could just get worse. Philadelphia, they could use another offensive defenseman. I think Provorov, while he can produce, I think they need more of that elite point-producing type. This would have been a good landing spot, for instance, for Torrey Krug. If they'd been in on Krug, I think this would have been a really good landing spot for him. But clearly, Krug ends up going to Seattle or St. Louis. Got Seattle on the brain because of Ghost, right? But yeah, we'll see how this goes. And then in net, you've got Carter Hart. And the one great problem that Philadelphia's had is they've had good goaltenders. They have. I'm not going to say Chechmanek wasn't good in his time. I'm not going to say Marty Biron didn't have good seasons. I'm not going to say that Brian Elliott hasn't had good seasons as well. But that elite starting goaltender has been elusive. As much as Steve Mason had some good years there as well, it's been elusive to this team to find that starter that they can project 5-10 years down the road and say, this will be the guy. Carter Hart's that guy. So you've got Hart, you've got Elliott as the backup, and then Lyon is there as the number 3. He's been lurking around as the number 3 for a while, and I was mildly surprised they brought back Elliott, but it's not a big deal. Elliott, 35 years of age. This may very well be his last season. Once a guy reaches 35, you start thinking, all right, so how much longer did they go? And yeah, we'll see how that works out for them. But Hart's the best goaltender they've had, which is why I think Philadelphia is closer to maybe getting that Stanley Cup monkey off their back than they were before. And just the overall depth. There's no true first line. I think you can have 2 good first lines here. I think lines 1 and 2 can be good 2 lines, and then you can get scoring out of that third line too. If it's Lindblom, Lawton, and Obey-Kubel, using that as an example, you have a good scoring line. If Van Riemsdyk can jump back into, say, the 20-goal, 25-goal range, if he can play really well, as we know he can, then that can help them as well. And they can have a fourth line, which is adequate enough defensively and scary enough offensively that you have to respect it. And again, the goals from the blue line, that might be an issue, but if Ghost can have that bounce-back season, it can happen. I know that everybody's taking Colorado. I'm taking Colorado as potentially a Stanley Cup champion. I know that Tampa Bay, being the defending champions, that's going to get them a lot of recognition in the East. But I don't discount what Philly can do. I don't discount what the Philadelphia Flyers are capable of. And once we get this season underway, whatever that season might end up looking like, I don't know that I would bet against the team that has that mascot right there. And again, I'm not saying favorites or anything like that, but I do think the Flyers right now, there's reason to believe that they can do it. And not only that, but with some of the younger players in this lineup, it may be that once Giroux and Voracek are older and they've moved on, that Konechny, Farabee, Lindblom, Frost, they're jumping into those top spots. And Philadelphia might have a chance for some sustained success as well. It's not like Provorov's old. Sanheim's not an old player either. And so there's really reason to believe that this could be maybe something they can maintain for a while. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below regarding the Philadelphia Flyers. And the real question that I have is, they've gone to the Stanley Cup Finals. 87 they went to the finals. 2010 they went to the finals. And 85 they went to the finals. This is a team that's shown that they can, go on nice long runs. They've been in conference finals numerous times. Are they finally building up to a team that can win in the Stanley Cup Final? Unlike 97, when they get there and then they hit that wall. Is this the team that can break through that wall and finally win a championship for the first time since the mid-70s? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.